I mean, I did when like my dad was here and
Yeah.
all, but
Yeah.
I was drinking for a different reason.
Right.
I've never been like a I just want to knock them back by
No.
myself guy.
My mom actually makes fun of me. Like I'll go down to her house and she'll get a beer and I'll get a beer at the same time. She'll finish hers. I'll be like a third of the way through mine. And I'm just like, I don't drink unless I'm like at a bar.
NBA Strategy Show, Wednesday, November 15th. What's going on, everybody? I am Josh Engleman. I am joined by Adam Scherer. We are brought to you by Vivid Picks. 8-game slate ahead of us. It happened again yesterday. I'm already telling Jeremy Savage he has no idea what he's talking about, but we're doing it here again. It's really fun playing chalk plays that suck.
Champagne, however you pronounce champagne, came through.
Robert Covington didn't.
No, he didn't. He was my second
No.
highest owned guy after Champagne.
Um, we said it on Twitter. We'll say it here. No matter what Robert Covington did yesterday, he was a good play. He was a really good play.
The only way that, like, the argument you can make for Covington not being a good play is if you had a reason to believe that he was going to be, a fake spot starter and not play real minutes. There was no actual reason to think he was going to play less minutes than Marcus Morris. That I
No, there was no legitimate way that you could project Robert Covington for 16 minutes yesterday.
Right.
None.
Right. If you went like 20, he's still showing up some, not showing up as much as the field probably. If you're going like 24, 26, which is, obviously different teams, but what Covington has generally done as a starter in recent years. And like he was already in the rotation playing 16 plus minutes or around 16 minutes. Yeah, unless you had a good reason, which I don't know of any good reason that you would have, but unless you had a good reason why that was a much bigger part of his range of outcomes than like, oh yeah, it could happen, but it probably won't. It was just a really easy play. Like he's a good point per minute guy, good enough. He's 3,400, good spot. Like it was really, really easy.
65% ownership to the Colts, 51 to Eddie. He was 47 or something like that to 150 maxers. It's the second best play on the slate. Just is.
What did you say?
We don't have to.
Maxers?
What it was like 46, 47, something like that when I checked it. We don't have to guess. Like, I'll say it. I've said this before. I could say it again now. Whether you played 0% of Robert Covington or 100% of Robert Covington is not necessarily the question of was he a good player or not. Like, we can math this one out and simulate contests and know what these guys were based on their real ownership and like sort of what level the optimal ownership of that play was. And Robert Covington being at the second from the top of that list is going to be the answer.
Right. And again, this goes back to assuming like you still have to use projections for that, but you have to actually have a projection. Like if you think Robert Covington was a bad play yesterday, project Robert Covington. And if you're giving him 24 minutes and don't have him as a good play, you're just completely wrong on what Robert Covington is. If you're giving him a lot less than 24 minutes, you need a reason why other than, well, they played the game and he played 16 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not, we know how to figure out this information now more so than we've ever known before. It's the reason that having high owned plays is, you got to think about what you're trying to do with 8 lineup spots. It's really hard to get all 8 spots of that correct. Running away from the guys that are the most likely to be guys that succeed is going to be the fastest way to never win in DFS. We don't need to try and reinvent the wheel and play all of the dudes that are 5% chances to succeed here. And we're seeing that with the fields now. We're so much more concentrated at the top. It really makes me want to go back in time and think like, oh my God, how much should we have just been chalk jamming GPPs instead of the consensus opposite opinion? We just have too much data now. We know too much.
Yeah, I mean, it just goes back to what you and I talk about all the time, that it's individual lineups. But when you're looking at the exposures across a pool, like usually there's going to be a couple popular plays that you don't have a lot of. But it's going to usually be in ranges where there's a lot of alternatives too. That was the thing with Covington. Like he was 3,400. You play, and it's not like you can only play one of those guys. Like, yeah, you could say, well, I prefer Champagne, I prefer whoever, but like you could just play them both and get more Embiid, get more Jokic. Yeah, it's like typically for me, what I noticed going back to when I started, implementing more of this stuff into my process, on most players, I end up around the field. And then when you look at my lineups, I will have, a couple contrarian plays in those lineups. The other thing that like never gets talked about when it comes to player exposures, who you don't have in a lineup also matters. Like if you're playing, like I had a couple lineups, one of my good lineups yesterday, I don't think I had anybody below 10% owned. And I looked at it and I was like, man, I'm kind of surprised, like on a 10-game slate, this lineup made it through as, being contrarian enough for me to play, but it didn't have Robert Covington. And it's like, oh, well, you don't have the guy that 50% of the field has.
Yep.
So already you're different.
Yeah, we gotta try to like reprogram our brains for this kind of stuff now, guys. We have the data. We can know what these things are. We should not be just immediately running away from things. I want to point this one out just because you said it, Jeremy, but like it is a consensus thought process here. You can tell yourself he only gets stocks and won't have any usage in that starting lineup. Sure, that's what the projection is for, which across the industry is telling you what Robert Covington was for yesterday. We can't double count the way that Robert Covington obtains his fantasy points. I agree that he's going to have small usage. Everybody projected him that way. That's what the projection is for.
Yeah, and right, and that's what I say. Like Covington's never been a high usage guy. Like
no.
You can go back. This wasn't, the usage thing isn't new. You can go back to plenty of situations in recent seasons where Robert Covington's in the same spot where he's not a top 3 scorer on the team.
Yeah, I don't think we were projecting him for 24% usage and being like, wow, he didn't even get shots. Like, no, it was probably like 12%, 13%. If you understand the projection, there's no way to think that he wasn't a good play. That like you're missing the connection somehow.
The only argument here is just the amount of volatility you thought there were in minutes.
Yeah.
Like if you thought that there was a much better chance, like if you thought 16 minutes or 18 minutes was much more than it could happen, but it probably won't, then yeah, it starts to get scary. But unless you had that thought, and again, then you need to explain why you think Marcus Morris is playing 18 minutes and why, you think that's happening. But yeah, it really just comes down to how you allocated the minutes. Like projecting Robert Covington's production is not very difficult.
No. P-Lags, I think it's important to hit this. Covington was a fine play, but doesn't he get to a certain ownership percentage where it's a pretty good fade? No. 5 years ago, that would have been the way that got described.
Well, I mean, yes, but like...
It's not just Robert Covington's ownership is high, therefore I have to fade.
Right. The way that, like, that's the end result. But really, all that's happening is, let's say Robert Covington's 80% owned instead of 40. He's still a good play. He's a good point per dollar play.
Yes.
But what's going to happen is you're going to build a bunch of lineups and you're going to start trying to figure out the lineups that give you the best chance of success at the lowest ownership. And you're trying to just basically find like the sweet spot there. And if Robert Covington is 80% owned, then more Robert Covington lineups are going to start getting kicked out of the lineups that you play because of his ownership. And you're, at that point, probably going to start playing less. But it's not just he's 80%, we're not going to play him. It's still like,
right.
It
makes it easier for the non-Robert Covington minutes to pass Robert Covington lineups.
Right, exactly. Yeah,
which is increasing the ROI of the non-Robert Covington lineups in a bigger way than it would have if he were less owned.
Right. So it's like the end answer, I think, is yes. Like there is a number where Robert Covington would start being somebody you don't really want to play, but it still has to do with like the alternatives, how they look.
Yeah. You could also
like
build a lot of positive ROI Robert Covington lineups with him being aggressively overowned.
Right. And it probably just means that you're playing, more of like Tyrese Haliburton at 2% instead of, somebody that's 10%.
Right. Instead of Maxey.
Right. Yeah. And it's, but the thing is like 80%, it's not like 80% is like a magic number either. Like there's going to be plays at some point this season that are 80% owned and still guys that you have 100% of.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or should have 100% of.
Yeah, in theory, when those numbers start going up, it does become easier to build lineups without that person, but it doesn't invalidate their status overall. It's an interesting dynamic.
Said, Adam, the lineups you showed us was not good. They all came last. I assume you're talking about the video I put out at 2 p.m., in which case, yeah, man, that's kind of how it works. I'm showing you how to use the tool and showing you how things look at 2. I think I don't know if I specifically say it because I thought it was really, really, really obvious. But yeah, don't play lineups from 2 p.m. on an NBA slate.
Yeah. But don't play the lineups that you're giving out on that video either.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. But I mean, like, even if you put that video out at like 6:45, everybody else is watching that one too.
Oh, sure. Yeah. But yeah, if I put that video out at 6:45, they're going to be better lineups than at 2.
Yeah. So yeah, it was not the Robert Covington slate yesterday. That did not happen. It was the Tyrese Haliburton slate, however. That dude is really good at basketball. He doesn't turn the ball over. It's kind of nuts. Did you see his final line for yesterday?
I didn't even hear you talking about.
Haliburton had 33 points, 15 assists, 7 of 12 from 3, no turnovers. In the 2 games that they have now played back-to-back against Philadelphia, 68 points, 10 of 18 from 3, 32 assists, 0 turnovers.
Wow.
32-0.
Yeah, he's incredible.
Yeah. It's nuts. It's nuts what he's doing. All right. You want to talk basketball for today?
Yeah, we can do that. I'm still
Perfect.
just reading chat, which is amazing.
We got to learn, guys. We have too much data and information out there now to just have bad opinions.
I mean, the ultimate answer is like most players aren't good or bad plays by themselves. It's most of them are just irrelevant. You can make profitable lineups with almost any functional player.
Yeah. Yeah. Dallas Mavericks.
I will say the lineup that won last night with Brandon, whoever the hell, was like that was an actual bad play, but got there. Somehow.
That's a hard one to get to.
Yeah.
Somebody else was in that lineup, I think, too, that I was just like,
it was
really?
Moody and Pod, whatever.
Yeah. No, that wouldn't have been able to get to that one. I don't know what I had him projected for yesterday, but it wasn't enough to get him in lineups that matter.
He was like 1% owned on the night slate.
That's when you know it's rough.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously, Jeremy Savage just mentioned Bagley. Yeah, obviously Bagley was like finally functional.
Oh, was he?
Yeah. He where is he? Why can I not? Okay. He had 38.5, 38.75. So, you know, he hadn't been doing that. Dallas Mavericks are 5.5-point favorites in Washington. 243 total. That is almost 30 points north of the low game for today. On the Dallas side, we don't know what Dallas will be doing. They are on a back-to-back. They played yesterday. As long as Kyrie and Luka are playing, it really doesn't matter too much what the rest of this team looks like. 11% ownership coming to Kyrie, 11 to Luka. Nothing else really. It's 23% to Kyrie on FanDuel, where he's 8,600. I like both of these guys. I actually think I like Kyrie more than I like Luka, just from like a functionality standpoint. If I can get to Luka at 12-1, great. I just don't know if we have enough value for it yet.
Yeah, I mean, really like the $8,800 price tag on Kyrie. I like the fact you can play him at point guard and shooting guard. You know, that's obviously nice. So yeah, I'm with you. I think he's just going to be easier to get to right now than Luka is. Clearly, Luka's going to project better and all of that, but you know, he's $3,500 more expensive, give or take. 3% ownership. So it really just comes down to what value opens up. And Kyrie's really the only guy on the team getting ownership and that looks good. You know, we have Kyrie with a 14% chance of being optimal on DraftKings. The next highest owned guy is Josh Green at 7% and Tim Hardaway Jr. at 7%. Hardaway's price tag jumped 10% from yesterday up to 5,900. Shooting guard small forward is nice, but I don't think there's anything that's really going to stand out from Dallas right now other than Kyrie. As we get more value, you know, there are 8 games, we probably will. As we get more value, Luka starts to look better, but he's expensive. And the problem you run into with Luka is he's a point guard, so there's always going to be like a strong mid-range of point guards. And he's in a price range where whenever Jokic and Embiid are on the slate, he's generally going to look worse than those guys too. Today you have Embiid, tough matchup. So, you know, closer to Luka than normal, but that's what's made it really difficult to roster Luka on most slates this year.
Yeah, I got to 11% of Kyrie, 7 of Luka. I just don't have much else from Dallas, which is a shame because the matchup is fantastic. Anytime you get to play Washington with a 243 total, you're probably pretty happy getting the other side of it.
Yeah, they are a bad team. They are impressive at losing games, though. Like, truly impressive how the way that they've been managing to lose.
Unfortunately, I think Washington is incredibly interesting today. Um, from an injury report standpoint, it's just DeLon Wright on the injury report. 15% ownership to Denny, 25 to Poole, 14 to Kuzma, 29 to Tyus Jones, 16 to Koulibaly. I'm getting a shit ton of Corey Kispert, and he's unowned. Every bit of this sucks. Every bit of it. Are they going to play real starter minutes and like a small rotation like they did last time? Because that would be great. If we're gonna start getting Washington playing like a real team with like 8 or 9 guys and starters playing 30 something minutes, then yeah, these guys are going to look exceptional. I think you have to have a lot of Washington, but you're just not going to have any confidence in it.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the scary thing because one, most of the players suck, so you're not going to have a lot of confidence in them. But two, we've seen their rotations be so weird. I said it to Greg on Twitter the other day when they managed to blow that massive lead against the Raptors that I was actually surprised when I looked at playing time because Tyus Jones played 31 minutes, Kyle Kuzma played 38 minutes, Poole played 35. You and I talked about it a lot that in a lot of the competitive games Washington's been in, you just happen to coincidentally see Tyus Jones play 22 minutes or Kyle Kuzma play 27 minutes. And it's like, okay, they're just actively not playing their two good players in competitive games. But we got this rotation last game where they played like an actual team. They still managed to lose the game, but they played like a team that was trying to win. And if they're going to keep doing that, they're going to look a lot better. So it's scary because one, you don't know what they're going to do with the rotation. Two, most of these guys just you never know what you're going to get from a fantasy standpoint. But 5,700 for Tyus Jones, he's a point per minute guy, always has been this year. Getting 13% ownership, probably playing 30-ish minutes. Kuzma at 8,100, 13% owned, like 1.3 DraftKings points per minute this year. Maybe playing 34 plus minutes. Again, who knows? Maybe he goes back to 28 randomly. But like, if they're going to play real minutes, if Kyle Kuzma just like consistently starts playing 36, 37 minutes a night, that price tag is getting up to like 9K.
Your boy says he's going to beat you in head-to-heads 60 to 65% of the time.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say he won't send more than 2 of those.
No.
Wow. So let's break this down. Who's the bet? Who, when you look at this, who is the guy that you would want the most from Washington? It's got to be Kuzma, right? Like that's the guy where you're just like, all right, that one is the one that I don't like. I feel the least bad about.
Yeah, I mean, Kuzma's the one that I think you would have the most confidence in. Obviously, it's a relatively difficult price tag. What ownership were you reading?
Am I not reading the correct? Did I like read the wrong site or something?
I don't know. We have Koulibaly at 4%. We have
13. My bad. I pasted everything in a column off.
Yeah.
But it's not that it's any different. 19% to Kispert, 11 to Gafford, 16 to Denny, 13 to Kuzma, 13 to Jones. I pasted a column over, so I was reading exposures incorrectly.
Yeah,
but still,
I only noticed because I wasn't actually like listening to the numbers you said. Yeah. But when I looked, I was like, I know he said Koulibaly was like 16% because I was listening to that one, and he's 4, so I don't know what. But yeah, like I think Kuzma's the one I would want to get to. He's expensive, so obviously like there's more alternatives around him, but he's the clear number 1 on this team.
Yeah.
The problem is just like outside of the fact, Kyle Kuzma can still just obviously play poorly, but generally he's a good producer. The problem is just at 8,100, like you're dead if you get 28 minutes.
Yep, you are. Like I think the Tyus Jones price is fine. Hopefully he plays 30. I don't mind the Kispert ownership. He's terrible on a per minute basis, 0.75 in and around that mark. But shooting guard, small forward, 4K, like that value mark works when the game total is 2-4. Like Corey Kispert is the type of guy that is going to look better in this game. If it's the game that has the most points and Kispert is only going to get points, then at least on a day like today, I'd probably want to have more Kispert.
Yeah, I don't really get why Kispert would be 6 times as popular as Koulibaly. Like he has better positional eligibility, shooting guard, small forward. He's $500 less, so I get why he would be more popular. I feel like it should be like 2x or something, and that's reflected in the optimal percentage too. 12% chance of being optimal for Kispert, 6% for Koulibaly, but you're getting like 19-4 ownership.
You play head-to-heads for more than $25, you're getting your money back because this will be the same lineup.
Play head-to-heads. What? I mean, yeah, I don't play NBA cash because it's really easy to figure out what you should be playing and everybody does it. But
Yeah,
since you apparently don't, I'm very happy to play you.
right. I think that head-to-head's coming in at 25 bones. So
all the top volume cash players are using the same site. No, all the top volume cash players just understand how to project NBA because it's not that hard.
yeah. Yeah. They all probably got Robert Covington very wrong yesterday.
Right.
Yeah, I'm with you on like the gap between. I think it's just I think $500 and the guard forward MPE is carrying a lot of weight.
Yeah, so right. Like I think he should be more popular, but I don't think it should be by that much.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're pretty comparable. And like I have Koulibaly slightly ahead of Kispert, but I think it's just that for right now, we don't have enough flexibility. And that's just pushing Kispert way higher.
Yeah. And also like Koulibaly is pretty firmly ahead of Kispert at this point in terms of the rotation, I think.
Probably.
Not that Koulibaly's locked in the 33 minutes or anything like he played last game, but generally whatever minutes are split between Koulibaly and Kispert, Koulibaly's typically on the winning end of that.
Gallo back 3,700, fine. Gafford, fine. Just,
yeah,
you kind of got to want to have a bunch of Washington. Just it doesn't really matter which bunch you get.
Yeah, exactly. I like Gafford, 5,400 center, solid spot. Plenty of block upside as always, but it's still a center spot on an 8-game slate. There's gonna be a lot of opportunity cost. Avdia at 6,200. There's still sticker shock there. I don't think I'm ever gonna get used to seeing that price on Avdia, but it's warranted. 1.1 fantasy points per minute just about this year. Probably playing around 30 minutes.
No, Adam, they're all using the same site. They just pick different lineups.
Got it.
New York Knicks.
It's weird that all the best DFS players are doing this thing that is clearly suboptimal based on some person in chat that nobody knows.
I know, it's really weird like that. Knicks are 1-point dogs in Atlanta. 230 total. We don't know the status of Atlanta yet. They're on the back-to-back. I projected Trae Young in. I'm going to just assume that he's available for today until we find out that he's not. He's not hurt. I believe he had a baby. He didn't. That would have been interesting.
He probably would be hurt.
Yeah. RJ Barrett is questionable with a migraine. I got him in. 21% ownership to Julius Randle, 11 to Mitchell Robinson, 11 to RJ Barrett, 9 to Brunson. I think the 4 guys that I named are the only 4 guys that you could really play for the Knicks if RJ Barrett is in. And I don't really have much of a preference between all 4 of them. Randle tends to be the guy that like stands out. There's just so many power forward centers in his price range that like I'm not shocked, but at some point in time he's going to start making shots at the rim.
Yeah, and I mean he acknowledged that he's still working his way back from injury. It is still limiting him, but as you and I keep pointing out, limited Julius Randle is still getting you 1.16 DraftKings points per minute this year. So it's a situation where like yes, you can look at Julius Randle and say he's struggling, he's not doing as well as he should or as we would like him to or as he eventually will, but he's still been very productive. It's like if you're knocking Julius Randle this season, it's kind of like when people talk about how like Dak Prescott and Justin Herbert suck at quarterback. It's like they kind of suck compared to their expectations sometimes, but like they're still head and shoulders better than most of the league. It's the same thing with Randle here. Still 1.15 DraftKings points per minute, still playing big minutes, $8,200, 21% owned, 16% chance of being optimal. He's just going to be a solid play in a lot of lineups. If Barrett's in, he looks fine at 6,400, 10% owned. We actually have him with a 19% chance of being optimal. So, maybe that number comes down a little bit, but looks like he's going a little bit under owned. Brunson and Robinson look fine. And then I have no idea where else he would go. If Barrett's out, Randle and Brunson look better. Josh Hart should move into the starting lineup and look like a good play at 5,700. But if Barrett's in, I think it's just those 4 guys.
On the opposite side, Atlanta, assuming Trae Young is in, they go from everybody's darling from yesterday to like mostly uninteresting. Highest owned guy would be 6% Onyeka Okongwu, whether that's DraftKings or FanDuel. I don't mind having a little Capella or Okongwu. Sadiq Bey had a really nice day yesterday. Trae Young at 9,300, that's a nice price, but Murray's price jumped to 9,100. If Trae is playing, you can't really justify going to Murray at that price. So I think we're mostly ignoring Atlanta if Trae Young plays.
Yeah, tough spot. Knicks are one of the slower teams in the league, one of the more efficient defenses. Atlanta, if Young is in, Atlanta just looks like one of those teams where if you are playing popular guys and you need a 5% or 3% owned Trae Young or a 5% Capella, they're all okay at their prices, but nothing's going to stand out. The matchup's not pulling them up or anything.
Yeah, I got 5% of Bogey, 5% to Capella, 5 of Okongwu, 5 of Trae Young, but it's just not much else there. It's kind of just a really boring, ugly game. Anything else here?
Nope.
Keep your eye out for it. Well, 2 games down, 6 more to go. Now's the best time to talk about it, guys. Millie, Milly. That is the promo code you're looking for. Short Gamer TV, pop the Millie on Sunday. We're kicking it back to you guys now with a little bit of a deal. If you have not signed up for our sim tool yet, whether that's NBA or NFL, whichever one you're looking for, you can get it for 20% off as long as you click the link in the description. We're trying to celebrate for Short Gamer TV. We're trying to help you celebrate by coming and seeing what he used to win $1 million this past Sunday. So again, code is Millie, whether you want NBA or the NFL side, whichever one you prefer, you're getting the goods. You're getting a much better opportunity to build high quality lineups, and you get it for 20% off. So click the link in the description, come sign up. Boston Celtics were 4-point favorites in Philadelphia, 224 total. We do not know the status of the Sixers. They played yesterday. Don't really want to play Robert Covington, but I'm hoping Batum is back. Kristaps Porzingis, questionable. And then I believe we just got Jaylen Brown is questionable. It didn't make it to, it did make it to the injury report. Jaylen Brown now on the injury report as questionable. So that is going to carry a lot of weight, and we're not really going to be able to know what we're doing here. The trickle-down effect for this could be massive. As of right now, you're not going to be prioritizing anything from Boston. But if we lose Kristaps Porzingis, then we probably are. Al Horford becomes interesting. If we lose Jaylen Brown, we're getting a trickle down to Drew Holiday, Jason Tatum, Derek White. If we lose them both, there's going to be a ton of value here for Boston. Hard to dig in right now.
Yeah, it's like if they're all in, then you're just getting the normal Boston where, like, obviously they're all fine. They're good players, but there's nothing that's going to stand out. I'm always interested in Jaylen Brown at 5% owned, 7,800 shooting guard, small forward, just because of the upside that he offers. Similar usage to Tatum this year, similar assist percentage, doesn't rebound at as high a level. But if everybody's in, there's not going to be any priorities here. If Brown's out, obviously Tatum, Drew, Porzingis are going to look better. If Porzingis is out, Horford looks better. But assuming everybody's in, it doesn't look like that great of a team.
No, it does not. It does not. How popular do you think Al Horford gets if Porzingis is out?
20, 25.
Yeah. And that, would you think
he's not free?
Who's more interesting to you if Jaylen Brown doesn't play, Drew or Tatum?
Different plays. I mean, Tatum, but like he's still 10.
Drew's the guy that ends up with a lot more ownership, though, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we need that news. There's no other way around it. Game's at 7:30. Hopefully we get it, but you cannot really realistically project Boston until you know it. And then on the Philly side, we legitimately don't know what we're doing here. 11% ownership to Tobias Harris, basically nothing to Maxey, minimal to Embiid. Sign me up for 11-6 Embiid in this spot. I won't mind that at all, whether Porzingis is playing or not. The real problematic thing here is, does Nick Batum play and start? If he does, 4,200 for a power forward Nick Batum will look like a solid enough value play. If not, Robert Covington is 4,600 today. So we don't really have to screw around with this one the same way we did yesterday. I think for Philly, you're probably paying more attention to like Tobias Harris and DeAnthony Melton.
Yeah, Harris leading the way at 11% owned right now, also leading the way with a 10% chance of being optimal. 6,600 at forward is just a pretty useful spot, especially for as long as the slate kind of holds where we don't have a lot of cheap value. The more that it ends up being mid-range, the more these guys like Denny Avdia and Tobias Harris are going to look like useful plays. Melton at 5,500, not exciting, 6% owned, perfectly fine lineup filler. Happy to get to Embiid if you can. Obviously a really tough matchup against Boston. You don't expect him to produce at the same levels that he has in most matchups this year, but still doing a much better job as a facilitator this year, still scoring at a high rate and rebounding at a high rate, obviously. So if we get value opening up, Embiid's going to look good. Maxey, same kind of thing. 9,500 is warranted, but against Boston, that's a really tough price to pay.
Yeah, this one's gonna. I'm just happy that they moved Covington's price. I didn't want to run that back. I wouldn't have known how to project his minutes. Let's say Batum is out. How many minutes would you be comfortable giving to Robert Covington for tonight?
Like 20, 22.
Yeah. Thank God he's 4,600. If he was 400 again, it would have been the death sentence.
Yeah, I mean, what's Marcus Morris? We don't have him in projections right now.
Marcus Morris is flat 3K.
Yeah, I mean, that one would be kind of interesting, but not really. Like, I don't think I would get there. Somebody said something about how bad Daniel House played. Not the plus minus is everything, but Daniel House plus 12 yesterday. Next highest on the team was Paul Reed at plus 3.
Terrible. Can't believe they trotted him out there to be successful.
I mean, he did nothing, but
yeah, well, he's not supposed to do anything. Daniel House. Exactly. If Daniel House is out there having to do shit, something went real wrong for Philadelphia. They're like semi not in the rotation guy, should not be the guy that you were hitching our wagon to. All righty. Let's go to look, we just need more information for this one, but whatever information, like whether Batum's in or not, we're not getting a very interesting Philadelphia 76ers team.
Agreed. Yeah, it's just, I mean, the matchup is brutal.
Milwaukee Bucks are 4.5-point favorites in Toronto, 227 total. The highest owned guy on the Milwaukee side right now is 2% to either Bobby Portis or Giannis or Pat Connaughton. Giannis is probable. Jay Crowder obviously going to be out for a while. Probably not going to roster anybody from Milwaukee today. Giannis is 11-1. I don't think they've gotten the memo that the team isn't the same as it used to be.
I mean, they had him down to like 10-4, I think, and then Dame misses a couple games. So Giannis starts being priced like last season, and now Dame's back. So it becomes really tough to get to him. You have Luka, who's more expensive, and Embiid's a little bit more expensive. It's really tough to get to any of those guys, but you're probably, if value does open up, going to be getting to the other two before Giannis. The only thing he really has working in his favor compared to the guys like Luka and Embiid is the power forward eligibility, where Embiid and Luka are at the two premium positions. Giannis, you can use it forward, which is nice, but really tough to get to anything. 2% ownership coming into Giannis, 2% to Portis at 5,700. Good point per minute guy, good positional eligibility. Still tough to count on him for enough minutes. He played 26 last game, so we did see an uptick in playing time with no Jay Crowder. Brook Lopez played 29 in that game, so it is good to see a game where Lopez played actual minutes and Portis got more minutes. Portis closed the first half rather, ahead of Lopez. Lopez closed the game, so like there is still a path to 33 minutes for Lopez and 22 for Portis, but I think expecting 24, 25 minutes from Portis makes some sense. At 2% owned, I'm interested, but still not something I would expect to be going too crazy with.
Oh, stupid Milwaukee. So many teams you could just cross off. Good news is Toronto, OG Anunoby doubtful, Gary Trent doubtful. At least we know how to project this one. Bad news is highest owned guy for Toronto is 8% to Malachi Flynn or 8% to Pascal Siakam. So we're casting a pretty wide net for Toronto. Pascal Siakam is 8,300 power forward eligible on FanDuel. He is getting some love, as is Dennis Schroeder. But as I look at it, I'm probably going to have a tiny bit of I'll have a tiny Dick, tiny Jakob Poeltl, tiny Malachi Flynn, a little bit Scotty Barnes is 9,200. Fine. None of it looks good.
No, it's just more correct pricing, basically. Siakam, Schroeder, both 7 to 8% owned, leading the way. Right now, we have Otto Porter at 17% to be optimal at 5% ownership. That's just something where either the ownership's going to come up come up, or the optimal percentage is going to come down. The field is just not going to miss by that much on anybody. So
how many minutes do we give him?
We have a 19.7 DraftKings points, so I assume 25.
Yeah, I went 20 minutes to Porter, 16 fantasy points.
We have 24 minutes, which like I'm not sold on that.
No,
He
I'm not
played
either.
14 against Washington. Played 14.
I don't know if he can play 20 minutes.
Right.
Physically. Without
him
like
starting,
just breaking into dust.
Him starting that game was really frustrating to me because it was like, okay, now you kind of have to assume that they think he can play like 20, 22 minutes, but I don't know that he can. And then he plays 14 minutes. And now I think it's still like, you just have to assume he's playing like 18 or something, I think.
Yeah, like if you look at that closing rotation, they went on like a 21-1 run to close it out. Like Boucher closed, like they did weird shit. But when you see that, it's like, oh, anyone can close.
Right.
I mean, like obviously Pascal Siakam and Scotty Barnes and Schroeder are going to close always, but like those final two spots with those guys out, all bets are off. Whatever's working.
And even if Porter closed that game, he gets to like 18 minutes. It's not like he played, the extended rotations where, he's at 20 minutes and then he didn't close.
They closed the second quarter, I believe, with Grady Dick, if I'm remembering that rotation correctly.
Yeah, the closing lineup in the first half was Pirtle, Schroeder, Siakam, Barnes, and Dick. And then
it's like opposite. Then they got rid of like Pirtle in the closing lineup of the fourth quarter.
Lineup, so the closing lineup for the game compared to the second quarter, it was Boucher instead of Pirtle, and it was Flynn instead of Dick.
Yeah. So like he lost all four of those battles. No matter who was closing, they didn't go Otto Porter. Everybody else got a run at it except for him. Could be a decent value play, but like it just scares me at 4K now. I just don't see a priority here from Toronto.
Same.
Kind of weird. Like if you want to play Dame today, you should definitely want to play Scotty Barnes first over Dame.
Agreed. Yeah, point guard, small forward, 9,200. Still not a great play at 2%, but
no, I have 2% of him.
Yeah,
but like he immediately is just like, oh shit, you've got like a clean pivot to Dame if you were a Dame guy. What you should be is a Vivid Picks guy because they have the ability to make you a lot of money immediately. They will match a deposit. If you click the link in the description, at least, and sign up, they will match your deposit up to $300. If you like these pick'em sites, if you're a Prize Picks person or an Underdog person or any one of the other pick'em sites, you want to add this one to your list because of what you can start with. Up to $300 in deposit gets matched. If maybe you only have 100, you'll still get 100. But if you have 200 or 300, that's going to be a lot better for you. And your first play is a $25 secure play, which means if it loses, you get it refunded up to $25 in site credit. So is there a better scenario for you? No. It's basically like depositing $300 and knowing you just won a double up. It immediately just becomes better for you. Build up your bankroll, figure out what you like the most, allocate it after that. But give yourself the opportunity to start with as much money as you can. Click the link in the description. Sign up for Vivid Picks now. Halfway there, Adam. Worst game of the day coming up next, but unfortunately, the Chicago side of it is relevant. The Orlando Magic are 2-point dogs in Chicago, 215 total. Let me know when the last time you remember this. So obviously Orlando did play yesterday. They have an injury report out.
Wait, what'd you say?
The Magic played yesterday, and they have their injury report out for today.
Oh,
kudos,
yeah, that
Magic.
came out. Yeah.
Kudos. Nice guys. That's helpful. Wendell Carter Jr. out, Markelle Fultz out, Gary Harris available. 11% ownership coming into Paolo Banchero. That's the high mark. Goga is 24% owned on the FanDuel side. I really don't see anything I want to prioritize here from Orlando, but 7,700 for Banchero is starting to get to a point where it's like, okay, I got to take a look at that.
Yeah, the price tag's dropping, which is nice. He's the guy I'm getting to the most right now from Orlando at like 8%. So not getting a lot, but the price tag is starting to get pretty appealing. 10% owned. So I'm pretty much in line with the field there. I'm not getting to this team much. 6% Batadze, 4% Anthony and Franz Wagner, 2% Mo Wagner. It's just another team that, they're not fully healthy since they are missing Fultz, but still not getting to a lot of them.
Yeah, I got to 9% to Paolo, and that's it. These guys, like, everybody's price has sort of just risen a bit. Like, Anthony Black could be interesting at 3,800, but if Gary Harris is back, and it appears that he is, then I think that sort of ability to grab that value is gone. I wish we had more to talk about for Orlando. They're just very uninteresting. The Chicago side, we have a lot more to dig into. Alex Caruso is questionable. That Q tag is going to carry a lot of weight. We also know that DeMar DeRozan is out. And for anybody that watched the Process show this morning, now he's on the injury report, something that he wasn't on at 6:30 this morning. 15% ownership coming into Caruso if he plays. 37 to Kobe White, which I want to have a much bigger discussion on. 22% to Vooch, who I think might be the best play on today's slate. I have 80 of him. 42% to Patrick Williams. 16 to Torrey Craig. 23 to Zach LaVine. No DeRozan has opened up everything for this Bulls team.
Yeah, it has. They're one of those teams where, seeing my exposures before I looked at the injury report, it was just like, okay, why is this happening? And then you remember DeRozan's out. Vooch getting 22%, LaVine at 23, White at 37, Patrick Williams 3,900, getting 42% ownership, and I'm with most of this. I mean, I have
80 of Patrick Williams, so with might not be the right word.
Yeah, I have 44% Williams. I'm pretty much with the field there. I'm getting the 40% Kobe White, pretty much with the field there. They're just both very reasonably priced. Kobe White, you still don't expect him to take on, a huge role as a scorer because you still have Vooch and LaVine, but he will step in, or should step into a bigger usage role without DeRozan. That certainly what does that look?
I did the deep dive of games that DeRozan didn't play at all last year, and then I did it with LaVine and Vooch on, DeRozan off. That Kobe White usage rate just sticks at like 18 and a half. Now, if you want to say that he's not the same guy that he was a year ago, that he's playing a slightly different role for the Bulls, could step into it a little bit, I think that's there. His points prop, I believe, was like 16 and a half this morning. I did not get to that in trying to adjust the rates. Maybe you'll see something a little bit different. Maybe I had a bad query there, but I don't know how much this affects Kobe White other than, like, theoretically there are more shots.
Right. And that's kind of what I was getting at. Like, he's still at 0.78 DraftKings points per minute, 498 minutes alongside Vooch and LaVine without DeRozan since the start of last year. 18% usage rate, but like the shots are there. It's not like if you take out Vooch DeRozan and LaVine, then you're expecting White to like actually take on a bigger role. But here he's still the third option. Yeah. And it's a distant third behind Vooch and LaVine. They are mostly going to just soak up that extra usage, but like there is at least,
and they do too. Like those queries show them getting 4 or 5% usage bumps.
Right. There is just at least like one less roadblock. Like, it's when DeRozan is out there, it's like, okay, how does Kobe White ever have like the Kobe White offensive game? Because all three of these guys are not getting out of the way. Now, at least you only have two of them, but it's still, those are still going to be the clear 1 and 2 offensively, followed by White.
So I still got to 40% White at 5,500. I don't mind it, but and I am not projecting him nearly as well as the prop market is showing him. I did not give him that same sort of bump. Still good. Still going to have him. Vooch to me stands out. 7,800. He gets massive upgrades when DeRozan is not on the floor. Not to mention, this is a matchup that is fantastic on the opposite side. Say what you want about like revenge narrative stuff, but not having Wendell Carter Jr. and having Goga and insert White center here, whose name I'll never remember, Mo Wagner in this case, not Mike Muscala. He's just like, this is an incredible spot for Vooch.
Yeah, I'm getting a bit over the field right now on Vooch. I have like 28%, Fields at 21. 7 games since the start of last season without DeRozan and with LaVine. 1.42 DraftKings points per minute in 36 minutes per game for Vooch. LaVine, by comparisons, at 1.22 DraftKings points per minute. I'm actually not getting to as much LaVine as the field right now. I would like to be getting more. I have 8% right now. 7,700 shooting guard, small forward. Good price tag, good positions. I think it's probably just that the value component of Kobe White and Patrick Williams is moving them up. Vooch does project better than LaVine at the same price tag. I'm getting a lot of Alex Caruso right now at 4,500, assuming he plays. So I think it's just LaVine ends up being the odd man out for me because Caruso, White, and Williams are the better value pieces. Vooch is the better projection. I'm getting Dosunmu at 18%. I'm getting Craig at 16%. So it's basically like I'm taking the value from Chicago. I'm prioritizing Vooch over LaVine right now. And that's just making it so I have a hard time also getting to LaVine. But that's one of those things that certainly could look different later. LaVine by himself, certainly a good play.
If Alex Caruso is in, how many minutes are you comfortable projecting for him?
So right now we have him at 28.
I can't do that.
I'll say I was thinking like 26.
Yeah. I don't think they ever want him to play 28 or 30 minutes in these games unless it is like absolutely necessary. He does not hold up when he does this. But like they need they can very easily close with Williams and Craig. I don't think they want to do that or insert another guy. But I assume Alex Caruso is going to be a part of a closing lineup if this game is close.
Right. Yeah. He's played at least 26 minutes in 4 of his 8 games this year.
Yeah.
4 of his 9 games.
Yeah. I think 26 feels like the spot. And like I'm getting him. I'm not trying to like undersell it, but he makes me nervous because he does like minutes and Alex Caruso don't go well together.
Yeah, no, and I'm with you because like in this case, at 4,500 point guard, shooting guard, every extra minute you project him for does matter. Like with him projected for 28 minutes, I'm getting 32% at 15% owned. We have him with a 19% chance of being optimal. If that projection were 26 minutes, that optimal percentage is probably closer to the field, and then I'm probably getting like 20% instead of 30.
I have 80-something percent Vooch. Do you want to talk about the Patrick Williams, Torrey Craig? Like, what do we want to do here? What's your assumption starting lineup-wise? Do you think Caruso starts? I would say no.
Probably not.
I think it's easier to start Williams and Craig or one of those two and Dosunmu.
Right. I think there's a good chance. Wait. Dosunmu.
As the 5th starter in this lineup. Like as the DeMar DeRozan replacement, I don't have a great feel of who that's going to be.
Oh, okay.
I'm
so
assuming it's Patrick Williams.
You were saying you assume it's one of Dosunmu or Patrick Williams.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense to me. Like I think it's easier to just bring Caruso off the bench and then probably close with him.
Agreed. That said, so like 42% ownership coming into Patrick Williams at 3,900, 16 to Torrey Craig. How do you feel about that disparity?
That's pretty much what I'm getting. Like I have 16% Craig. I have, what did I say? 44%. Yeah, 44% Williams. So it seems right to me. You know, we have Williams right now projected a little over a point ahead of Torrey Craig. He's $100 less. That's how I'm getting it. I think you can certainly make the case that Williams relative to Craig is too popular. Williams 20% chance of being optimal, Craig 10%. So if you're just looking at optimal percentage, it suggests Williams should be twice as popular as Craig instead of, 3 times as popular.
Yeah. I think they're both really good plays. And they're obviously cannibalizing each other to a degree, but that disparity seems like a lot. That said, I'm getting all of the Patrick Williams and I'm still 2xing Torrey Craig. So it doesn't really appear to be stopping me in any way. I'm getting LaVine. I'm over on all of these guys. Caruso, White, Dosunmu, Vooch, Williams, Craig, LaVine, all of them. Every single one of them. I think you have to be. And it might be even more crazy if Alex Caruso gets ruled out.
Yeah, like if Caruso gets ruled out, this really, like Dosunmu starts to look good. Javon Carter starts to maybe be in play.
Yeah. The interesting thing with Chicago is they don't really screw around with like adding new people to the rotation.
Right.
They are very likely to just play all these guys like 2 minutes more and add that to everybody. So I would, if Caruso doesn't play, I would not be surprised if they like barely introduce one other person to the rotation.
I agree.
All told, very clearly, Chicago is a team that looks nothing like the rest of this slate. They are the clear priority.
Yeah, there's a couple teams that really stand out like that, and Chicago is certainly one of them.
All right. Well, let's keep it moving. Minnesota Timberwolves, fresh off their fracas, the Golden State Warriors last night, 6-point dogs in Phoenix. We don't know the status of Minnesota yet on the back-to-back. 14% ownership coming into Kyle Anderson at 4,600. 13 to Towns at 7,900. Jaden McDaniels probably feeling fresh as a daisy after playing a minute and a half yesterday. Gobert getting a little bit of love. Basically, anybody that plays like 26 minutes or more for Minnesota is a completely reasonable option today.
Yeah, completely agree. I'm getting to about 32% Gobert, 30% Cat. So that's more than I've been getting to Minnesota on most slates, particularly Cat. I've gotten a decent amount of Gobert this season, but 6,900 for Gobert just looks really good. 7,900 power forward eligible for Cat also looks good. So getting over the field on both of those guys. The rest of their starters look fine. 6% ownership coming to Edwards and Conley. 13.5 to Anderson off the bench. I'm getting to 8% Anthony Edwards, so pretty much with the field there. Always love slates where I can get to Edwards. 8,900 shooting guard, small forward looks pretty good. 4% Conley, 2% Anderson. So I'm getting to those five, the same five that the field is getting to essentially. But Gobert and Towns are the ones coming out as priorities for me right now, getting a little over 2x the field on both guys.
I got to 15 on Gobert, 10 on Towns, 11 on Slow-Mo. Wild game last night between them and Golden State.
How long is Draymond getting suspended for?
Probably a game or two.
I think it might be longer than that. That was bad.
He's not getting more than 2 games.
And it was Draymond.
Yeah. He's not getting more than 2 games. So silly. So silly. I just love Clay being like, tell me what I did. Tell me what I did. What did I do? I don't really have
for the
else
season. I feel like you kind of get slept on. 1.2 DraftKings points per minute for Anthony Edwards. 1.2 DraftKings points per minute for Cat. I feel like Cat's just kind of been an afterthought this season because on a lot of slates, like he's just been an afterthought for a variety of reasons. But like he's still producing. He's cheap. He's power forward. Like he looks really good.
56% true shooting for Karl Anthony Towns, lowest rate of his career by a mile.
And still putting up numbers.
Yeah. 36%. He's shooting 58% at the rim. Should not be the case for Karl Anthony Towns.
I actually thought Gobert was... Oh, shit. I was looking since the start of last season.
I got it. 1.28 for Edwards this year, 1.19 for Towns.
Yeah, okay. 1.05 for Gobert. So same ballpark, just a little bit different.
Towns' offensive rebounding has gone away, which I don't think should be all that surprising if you think about how this team plays now.
Agreed.
Assist rate is gone too. Like he's just a different guy now with Gobert there, which is not the way that you probably want to allocate Karl Anthony Towns.
Yeah, still 27% usage rate, second to 33% for Anthony Edwards.
Okay, so we go to Phoenix. Big day for the Phoenix Suns. They finally get to play with all their toys. Bradley Beal probable, Devin Booker probable, Eric Gordon probable, Kevin Durant just around. So I assume something bad is going to happen in Phoenix tonight. 2% ownership to Bradley Beal. I don't see a scenario where you can go to Devin Booker at 10-3 today. I don't really want much of Kevin Durant at 9,900 either, but I think you can still sneak in a little bit of Bradley Beal at 7,100. Otherwise, you're not rostering anybody from Phoenix.
Slate started right now. I would have nobody from Phoenix. But yeah, same page. I think if you're getting to one point guard, shooting guard, 7,100 Beal is probably where you would go first. 5% chance of being optimal, 2% owned. So low probability play, but also technically going under owned. But that being said, I'm not getting to either one right now.
I got 3% of Beal. That's it. Booker to me is just like a straight no. I can't, if I'm getting 10-3, I don't know how, like, what are they going to look like? Who's going to have the ball? Who's doing any of this shit? 10-3 for Booker, full freight coming back off of a week and a half, 2-week injury. No, thank you.
I was just looking. So like for anybody watching that doesn't have a general idea of like my process, like I build a bunch of lineups and then essentially choose from those lineups which ones to play. So I was just looking to see what percent of the lineups that I even built had guys from Phoenix. 2% of the lineups that I built that I could choose from had Bradley Beal. Less than 1% had Durant. Less than 1% had Booker. Like I'm having trouble even building lineups that have Kevin Durant and Devin Booker for me to potentially play.
Yeah. I got nothing else here.
Me neither.
Final thing, folks. 624 people in here. Please hit that like button. That will help us out as you're listening to this one, whether you're rewatching this one throughout the day or listening on the podcast feed. Schedule for the rest of the day is very easy. NBA Deeper Dive tonight at 5 p.m. You don't get me. I'm not going to be there. Adam and Chris Spags will take you all the way up until 6, at which point you'll get NBA Live Before Lock from 6 until 7. Easy NBA day for everybody today. Nice slate. It's a shame. 8-game slate. It's like the perfect size slate. Most of these games are disgusting. Are you excited? We're not going to get to this one until next, but are you really excited for the 10-point dogs at home Portland Trailblazers on the back-to-back against the Cavs? Not going to be a fun one for most people. Nor is this one, I don't think. Sacramento Kings, 1-point dogs in LA, taking on the Lakers. Lakers are on the back-to-back. Kings are not. We did get De'Aaron Fox back in that last one. Alex Len is now out. He sprained his ankle. 14% ownership coming into an $8,300 De'Aaron Fox. I think that looks pretty good. Second highest owned guy for the Kings is backup center JaVale McGee, if you were looking for where the value is. I think Fox looks really nice at 8,300.
Yeah, so do I. I'm getting 30% Fox, which I'm very happy with at 8,300. That is not what my shit was to. It was to the second highest owned guy, JaVale McGee.
How much are you getting him, JaVale?
24.
Yeah. I mean, that's not going to last.
No. But it's one of those, like, it's not going to last. Like, for the person that tried to play play lineups for my 2 p.m. show, this is the kind of thing that just is going to change. With the information we have right now, he does look good. He's getting 11% ownership. We have him 16% to be optimal. He's 3K flat. He's a good point per minute guy. So, like, if the slate just started right now, I would want a good amount of 3K JaVale McGee just because we don't have other value. But things do tend to change in the NBA, and it'll probably change by lock. So
I have right Jabari Walker as like my JaVale McGee guy. He showed up in contenders this morning. I don't look at it before I start reading. It pops up on my screen and I go. And I was like, did I mistype something? Did I get Jabari Walker? And then I started looking and I was like, okay, he's just my value guy.
Yeah. I actually just double checked that one. I only have 6% him, but so right now I would want a bunch of JaVale McGee. By lock, I'm probably not going to want JaVale McGee. De'Aaron Fox though is probably going to hold, he's 8,300. He's playing normal minutes. He's very, very, very good. I am getting a lot of him and very happy with that.
He's the second best point guard the Kings have had in the last couple of years. That's a pretty good thing to be.
It is.
Wonder what happened to that other guy.
Oh, they got Sabonis. Everything's good.
Yeah. They got Chris Duarte. Just loading up on those former Pacers. Not the right ones, though.
Addition by subtraction, getting rid of Healed, though, obviously.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know. So good. So good.
I was joking.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Shooting the lights out, man. Their offense is insane.
Oh, yeah.
It's just Haliburton has all this space. When you can have Miles Turner stretch the floor and Buddy Hield stretch the floor, it's like, holy shit. Haliburton he's got a pretty big dance floor at that point. Probably why he doesn't turn the ball over at all.
Yeah, but, knock down 3-point shooters do not have value to winning teams.
No, not at all. I mean, they got Miles Turner as a stretch. Haliburton and Buddy Hield are both 40% 3-point shooters. That starts to get real difficult real fast.
I feel like that's the thing that goes overlooked with Haliburton too. He can shoot in addition to being as good as he is as a playmaker.
That's the one I didn't see coming.
Because I mean,
I was gonna say he's got a pretty weird technique.
Yeah.
But 41, 41, 40, 43 and a half in his 4 years. He is no doubt about it, elite 3-point shooter. God, I love that dude. Anyway, play De'Aaron Fox though. He looks awesome. Lakers don't. I think we lose one of these dudes today. We don't have an injury report, but Lakers on a back-to-back here. They're playing at home. If you want to play LeBron at 10K or Anthony Davis at 10-2, go for it. They're not owned. They're going to be a unique pivot for you. I would not be surprised to see LeBron James sit this game out, but I don't know.
Yeah, same page. We're just not going to have that news right now. We'll get an injury report at some point, but with everybody both be
questionable, I'm sure.
Yeah, probably. With everybody in, I have a LeBron lineup, and that is it. If LeBron does sit, Davis looks better, Russell looks better, Reddish, Reeves, Rui, they all look better. But for now, assuming that they don't rest guys, I have nothing. It is a good matchup though, so certainly something, definitely news that matters. I mean, this team has a 117 implied total. It's just if LeBron and Davis are both in, they are cutting into each other and also taking stats from everybody else at such a level that it just becomes hard to get to them for DFS. But if one or both of those guys sit, this just can end up looking like a great team really quickly.
They play again on Friday. So they're off tomorrow, but they play Friday, but it's a tournament game and they're playing the Blazers in Portland, it's part of the reason I think that LeBron is going to play that game and then sit this one. Like Obi said, he only played 22 minutes last night. It's a home back-to-back. The home part is the reason I think he sits. It's way easier for stars to sit home games than road games because home games will have LeBron James available for 41 times throughout the year. Road games, it's the only time that that city is probably going to see him. So to me, it's a lot easier to sit this one out if you want to do it. Otherwise, he's not, I don't expect him to be sitting a tournament game. That in-season tournament is just going to like screw up the like process of rest. But it won't matter.
Like, cares about the in-season tournament?
No, but it's the one like, hey, can you not sit that one situation?
Yes, and I mean, especially
I think it's more for the road games. Like, I really do think it's a conscious decision. A lot of times
I had never thought about it like that. I always viewed it as more likely to play the home games to not piss off fans.
Yeah, so I think it's the opposite. Like, I know Jordan used to talk about it a lot, where it's just like he knew that on road games, like that was the only time that these fans were going to get a chance to see him for a calendar year.
Right. Yeah, no, it makes sense.
But that's also like some guys it might be that, and some guys it might be
right.
Like,
I'll say it definitely seems like one of those
where like play now.
Right. It definitely seems like one of those where like there's probably some guys that are like, no, like I want to play for the LA fans. I don't care about the Portland fans. And then there's others where it's like, like you said. So yeah, no, I mean, it makes sense, but it's, to me, it's like a lot of other narratives that like come up. It's like, yeah, well, it might matter to that guy or it might not.
Well, anyway, unless one of those guys are out, we ain't doing shit with the Lakers. And then you just get to this final tire fire. The Cleveland Cavaliers are 9.5-point favorites in Portland. No Darius Garland, no Isaac Okoro, still no Ty Jerome. 34% ownership to Karis LeVert, 36 to Donovan Mitchell, 25 to Mobley, 23 to Strus, 16 to Allen. I think we could start with the top two dudes in ownership there. LeVert, Mitchell, I'm cool with whatever amount I get. I mean, no Darius Garland has just changed the way that these guys are going to look today.
Yeah, I'm not getting a lot of LeVert right now, which may or may not change. Shooting guard, small forward, 6,400. This is just another example of, I think he's a good play, clearly. Like, I'm not looking at this and going like, why the hell is the field playing, LeVert 34%? But I'm getting like 14%. So I'm like a little under half the field on him. But I've had a lot of some other popular players. So that's probably just what it is some of these other popular guys are showing up for me a lot, and I'm losing LeVert as a result. It's not like a knock on LeVert or anything. If you're playing LeVert, perfectly fine. Donovan Mitchell, I'm getting 50%. He's 36%. 9,100, point guard, shooting guard, no Garland, just a really nice bump for him. Bigger role as a playmaker, obviously all the usage that he wants. So they both look good. I understand why the field's getting to LeVert. I'm just not really there at the moment. Obviously, plenty of time for that to change. But Donovan Mitchell, I think, is my highest owned guy on the slate right now.
He's behind. I have 42%, but I've got Vooch and Patrick Williams ahead of him right now.
I'm getting a lot of, so for me, I'm getting a lot of Mitchell. I'm getting a lot of Strus at 5,600. So I think that's also sort of what I'm doing. For what it's worth right now, and again, like I'm using our projections and our data and everything. Right now we have Strus 28% to be optimal. We have LeVert 17, and then we have LeVert way more popular than Strus. So that's the other thing is like I think I'm just kind of flipping it like with that information. Like Strus looks a lot better. I don't know if that holds, but
do we have Strus ahead of LeVert in projection?
No, he's 3 points behind him.
Wow. Okay.
So yeah, like with the information that I'm using right now to build lineups, I would absolutely want a lot more Strus than LeVert. I think it's likely that by lock, this all just kind of looks a little bit different.
Wait. Okay. You would want more Strus than LeVert? Did you mean to say it that way?
Yeah. Using the information that I'm looking at right now.
Gotcha.
Where LeVert is 1.5 times the ownership of Strus. He only projects 3 points better, and Strus is like 2x to be optimal. I would want to be jamming Strus over LeVert. I don't think that those numbers look the same by lock. And so I think I end up getting more LeVert than I have right now and less Strus than I have right now.
Yeah, I've got more LeVert than Strus. I'm actually under on both of them, which surprised me. I didn't expect that for LeVert, but I am getting to Mitchell. How many minutes do you think Jared Allen's playing today?
What'd you say?
How many minutes do you think Jared Allen is playing today?
So we have him at 28.
Yeah, I went 28 as well. 5,900. He's he's not playing the way that he's playing the way that I thought he would have to play this year, coming off of how shitty his playoffs were.
Yeah, I mean, the rotation last game was weird too. He played 15 minutes in the first half. He played basically the same rotation in the third quarter as he did the first, but then he just never came back in the fourth.
Yeah. It's just weird. He's fine, but I'm not. You do have a lot of him?
Yeah. And for what it's worth, 28 two games ago against Golden State. Yeah, we haven't projected for 16% ownership. I have 28% right now.
Yeah, I have 7. And like, that's one where I don't mind being lighter here. He's going to step in and like one of these days play 32 or 33 minutes and you're going to feel real dumb about it. But I don't know what they're doing with him right now.
Yeah.
And then Mobley's just Mobley.
Yeah, fantasy point per minute guy for the season.
Yeah.
Like at that price, at 5,900, I'm fine getting there. If I ended up closer,
there's just like there's a lot in that range, you know.
Right.
There's you've got Gafford, you've got Lively in that Dallas game against Washington. Like you're gonna be able to find dudes that look like Jared Allen.
Agreed. And for what it's worth, right now, getting 18% Gafford and no Lively.
Okay. But Cleveland looks great.
Yeah, I would say I'm also getting like 26% Mobley, Fields at 25.
I didn't know who you were about to say there because we had kind of like talked about all the guys that were like getting a bump. I was like, are you going to say like Sam Merrill or Dean Wade or some shit?
No, the only 5 guys I'm getting from Cleveland right now are Mitchell, Strus, Allen, Mobley, LeVert. I'm just getting all of them at a pretty healthy clip. You know, LeVert, like I said, right now under the field, Strus way over, but like those numbers are probably going to balance out. But it just looks like I'm going to get a lot of those 5 guys.
Well, we don't know the status for Portland, but all the dudes that like, you know, the Brogdons and Simons and shit, those guys are still out. 13% ownership coming into Toumani Camara at 3,800. He got the start over Matisse Thybulle. I don't know how much that changes his role. You're probably not like moving his minutes around too much, but you feel better about it with him starting. I got 21%, so I like it. I think he's the best play from Portland. 7% to Jeremy Grant. By all means, do it. The minutes are going to be there normally. Same for Shaedon Sharpe. Ayton, fine. Probably not much else.
Who did you say?
7K Skylar Mays is out there too. Kamara.
Yeah, I mean that's where I'm getting, and I don't want it, but started yesterday. He's 3,800. He's getting 13% ownership. Right now, I'm getting to 34%. Like it's another one where, as more value opens up today, I probably just start losing some of him because there's going to be other guys that end up looking very similar. But you know, with the way he looks right now and modest ownership, it's just, you know, allowing me to get to other good players. You know, it's letting me get a lot of Mitchell. It's letting me get a lot of De'Aaron Fox. It's, you know, a relatively weak position. He played 26 minutes yesterday, you know, basically played the 3 quarters rotation. He played a minute, 17 seconds in the fourth, but like he played pretty long stints. In the first half, he played about 7 minutes to open the game, played about 7 minutes to close the half. So 27, 28 minute pace. Then he played 11 minutes to open the third quarter and barely played in the fourth. So like there were minutes there for him. He's not a great point per minute guy, but he's only 3,800. So right now as a value piece, I'm getting to a lot of him. I'm not getting to a ton of the rest of the team. 10% Ayton, 6% Walker, very little bit of Grant and Mays. But yeah, Kamara standing out as one of my more exposed value pieces at the moment.
I did get 7% to Jabari Walker. Ended up playing 21 and a half minutes. Like could very easily, like if you're projecting him for 20 and he has that power forward eligibility, he's going to look pretty solid given that price tag. It's going to look, you're not going to be like, it'll look similar to what Robert Covington did yesterday. You're just not giving him the starter minute projection. You're giving him the 20. This is going to be a decent proxy of what Covington would have looked like if you knew he could play 20.
Yeah. And I think 20 is a pretty good projection. Like Walker's rotation scares me. The first half rotation was great. Played like basically 12 minutes straight. It like starting partway through the first quarter and into the middle of the second quarter. The second half rotation was really scary. Played like 8 minutes. Subbed in, barely got on the floor in the third quarter. So the minutes are volatile, but I think 20 is a pretty good estimate. Like you could get the game where, I mean, like if that game doesn't blow out, if they just stick with the lineup that was out there, Jabari Walker is picking up another 2.5 minutes closing. So like there is a path to like 24 minutes. There's also a path to 16 minutes.
Yep. First guy off the bench, sort of. Him and Booyah
Yeah.
were the first guys off. You like that? It's fun, isn't it?
Definitely how it's pronounced.
Booyah, and they've got Doo-Wop Reith. That's another person that's real.
Yeah, we had them and Leaky Black yesterday.
Yeah. I knew Leaky Black. These other guys are made up. I just know it because I'm in North Carolina. Anyway, Carolina.
Leaky Black is for sure one of those names that like show up in the draft on 2K, and you're like, I'm not drafting this guy because now I'm just gonna have to use this stupid name.
Yeah, yeah. I just wouldn't want. I know why he's Leaky Black. I wouldn't want anybody to refer to me as Leaky for my life. Like that's not a word where anybody's just like, yeah, that's me. I'm Leaky. Leaking all over you. Yeah, it is a semi-pro name for sure. All right. Article and videos coming out later. Please don't immediately think that you need to play the lineups that are shown in that video.
Yeah. As a quick plug, I guess, like I do a lineup generator video every day where I use our lineup generator tool and show, how to use it and take a look at the slate at that point in time. I do not recommend setting those lineups and forgetting them.
Do we have to treat this like it's a Jackass episode? Like, yeah, don't let a leech bite your wiener, man. It's not how this works.
I recommend signing up with the link that's below the video so you can use it for yourself at 650 like most people would be able to figure out.
Contenders videos are already out there, folks. Check it out. 2-0 on Prize Picks yesterday. So right back to the classic traditions that we have around these parts of smacking Prize Picks around. Sign up using the Millie promo code, 20% off for The Sims. I won't see you later, but Adam will. Good luck, everybody. We'll talk to you later.